Assalamualaikum and hello. My name is Nurhanis Atika binti Muhammad Nawi. We are going to present about Dirang's murder case.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Farzana binti Irwan and I will present the key background details of a tragic forensic case involving the murder of a young child in Malaysia. The victim was identified as Nurul Nadira Abdullah, also known as Dirang. She was a 4-year-old girl whose sudden disappearance and death deeply shocked the nation. The incident took place in Bandar Seri Alam, Masai, Johor Bahru, Malaysia. Her child remains were later discovered in a secluded area within a nearby oil palm plantation. Dirang was reported missing on 1st March 2012. Her remains were found approximately a week later, triggering a full-scale forensic investigation. Initial investigations led to the arrest of 5 individuals, 4 men and 1 woman. Among those arrested was Dirang's own biological father. All suspects were remanded for questioning as forensic teams worked to establish their involvement using all those physical evidences.
Hi, I am the second presenter. My name is Nurhanis Akila binti Muhammad Nawi. Next, we will go with the storyline of this case. On 1 March 2012, Nurul Nadira, which is Dirang, went missing after she left home to buy an instant noodle and eggs at a nearby grocery shop. Her mother tried to search her around her place and at the shop after she did not went home after more than 1 hour. Then, a police report was made and a massive search was conducted at the nearest location around Dirang's house and the shop. The shop owner and some witnesses said that Dirang went home right after she bought the items. Later, police found Dirang's slipper and bag with the groceries at an oil pump behind their flat. After a week, on 8 March 2012, the charred remains of a young girl was found by Dirang's grandfather at a palm oil plantation in Bandar Seri Alam, and it was tested and confirmed that it belonged to Dirang's. Through a post-mortem investigation, it was confirmed that Dirang was sexually assaulted and murdered. After a thorough inspection, police arrested 5 suspects that included Dirang's father for their involvement in the murder. On 26 March 2012, Muhyiddin Maidin was charged with the murder of Dirang. He is a contract laborer that has a vengeance towards Dirang's grandmother because she insulted and looked down on Muhyiddin.
Trial of Muhyiddin Maidin, 25 February 2013. Muhyiddin Maidin stood trial for the murder of Dirang at Johor Bahru High Court. The prosecution was led by Umar Saifuddin Jaafar, Chua Shin Chen and Jasmi Hamiza Jaafar, while the defense was led by Muhammad Daud Ismail, Goh Sihan and Muhammad Abdul Qadir. 3 witnesses for defense and 35 prosecution witnesses were summoned to court to testify, and a total of 133 exhibits of evidence were displayed during the trial. Muhyiddin was said to lure the girl with candy, then abducted her when she was on the way back home after running the errands. He then brought her to the oil palm plantation to rape before suffocated her until death. In order to destroy the evidence, Muhyiddin set fire on her body and left her charred remains at the plantation. The reason why Muhyiddin committed the crime was due to him feeling mad after he was insulted and looked down by the victim's grandmother. 28 June 2013, Justice Dato Abdul Halim Aman delivered his verdict after 4 months. He condemned Muhyiddin as cold-blooded killer and the cruelest of all murderers. As a result, 25-year-old Muhyiddin was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death by hanging. Appeal process. In December 2014, the Court of Appeal rejected the appeal of Muhyiddin against the trial verdict. 28 May 2015, the Federal Court of Malaysia, the apex court of the nation, dismissed Muhyiddin's appeal and upheld his conviction for Dirang's murder and finalized his death 2024 resentencing motion. October 2018, the Malaysian government announced that they will abolish the death penalty, although later they decided to make the death penalty discretionary and it would no longer be mandatory for all offences. 9 July 2024, Muhyiddin was one of the 936 death row prisoners to appeal for a reduction of their death sentences. Muhyiddin's lawyers stated that Muhyiddin had changed and been attending many religious and motivational activities inside the prison. On the other hand, the Deputy Public Prosecutor DPP Muhammad Amril Johari urged the court to maintain the death penalty because of how cruel Muhyiddin was to the innocent girl. After deciding, Chief Justice Tun Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat and Federal Court Judge Datuk Nordin Hassan rejected Muhyiddin's resentencing appeal and continued with the death penalty for the murder of Dirang. Current status: as of 2024, Muhyiddin is still on the death row awaiting for his execution, which had not been scheduled. There are three main forensic evidences in this case. The first one is soil evidence. The soil of the crime scene at palm plantation matches with the soil caked on Muhyiddin's motorcycle and the soil nearby Dirang'S corpse. Based on locate exchange principle, whenever two objects come into contact, they will exchange materials. Because of the same composition of this soil that contain high amount of mosses, police able to indict Muhyiddin as a suspect to further the investigation.
Next, I will continue with DNA evidence. First, victim. One of the first tasks in any forensic investigation involving remains is to establish the victim's identity. In this case, the body was discovered in a severely burned state, making visual identification impossible. Forensic scientists use mitochondrial DNA analysis, comparing samples from the remains with a known reference, her mother's DNA. Mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down maternally, remains intact even in degraded conditions like fire. The mesh confirmed that the remains belong to 4-year-old Nurul Nadira Abdullah. This DNA-based identification was crucial for formally opening the homicide investigation. Next, semen DNA mesh. During the forensic autopsy, swabs were collected from the victim's vaginal and anal areas to test for biological evidence. These samples were processed using short tandem repeat STR DNA profiling, a standard method in forensic labs for identifying individuals. The semen DNA extracted from the swabs matched the suspect Muhyiddin Maidin. This was a key forensic link establishing that the suspect had direct, illegal physical contact with the victim. The DNA evidence supported findings of sexual assault, which greatly strengthened the criminal charges brought against him. The last one, statistical strength. One of the strengths of DNA profiling in forensic science is the ability to calculate how likely it is for a random person to have the same DNA profile. In this case, the match probability was calculated at 1 in 700 trillion, an astronomically low chance. From a forensic standpoint, this means the DNA could only belong to one person, the accused. Such a high statistical confidence is what allows DNA evidence to carry significant weight in court, often playing a decisive role in conviction as it did in this case.
So, the last forensic evidence is fabric. The forensic team found a charred remains of a yellow sarong at the same scene as charred remains of Dirang's body was found. The charred sarong matched with the only yellow sarong worn by Muhyiddin during the investigation, so it linked with each other.